inviting me. And I would also like to apologize for missing the summit. I planned to come and everything, but I felt sick a few days before the summit, and I still really tried to come, right? Because I was looking forward to it. But sadly, I just couldn't. My health failed me, and I saw the video you guys made, and I really deeply appreciated it because I felt bad for not being able to make it there because a lot of people actually were looking forward to meeting me there, and I felt really bad when I saw the video. Uh, yeah, I just couldn't believe it, and I trust you guys still had a deeply impactful session with the other speakers. And when Raphael told me that there was going to be a post summit conversation, virtual one, I was like, okay, sure, just sign me up for that. And yeah, I'll be happy to share with you guys and meet you guys. So thank you once again. I'm sorry for wasting your time. Should have started this by 7, but I just got stuck. So um, so the first thing I'd like to say today, I'll be talking about, doing big things from a small place. Um, Funny thing was, the first time I ever wrote this was some 5 years ago, right? I remember I was thinking, right, and I spent a lot of time in my thoughts, right, because I believe that everything that has been created by humanity, everything we see, right? Everything, every innovation, anything at all that has been invented by man has been a product of his functioning mind, of a reasoning mind. So I spend a lot of time thinking about the things I want to do, the things that I've already done, right? And the things that I can become. So on one of those days, you know, while I was in the trenches and, things were looking very bleak, it just came to me like an epiphany that it is possible to do great things from a small place. And I wrote it down and it became my mantra. And that is my philosophy for life. And when I wrote it down, it didn't make any sense because I was in a very difficult place, right? So I would just tell a bit about my personal journey. I'm sure it's something that most people you already know, at least, from a couple of articles, things that I've done in the past, right? So I'm a national chess master. What that means is that there was a point in my life where I played chess professionally, and sorry, I think someone's microphone is okay. All right, so there was a point in my life where I played chess professionally, and I got my professional rating. I was ranked one of the best in the country, and in summary, chess changed my life, right? I grew up in Ikorodu, in a place called Iselodo. In fact, today I went to Ikorodu. I'm just coming from Ikorodu. I went for a friend's introduction at Ijede. Now, Ijede is another place in Ikorodu that is like inside, and it's just a village. And we went there for my friend's introduction, and it just brought back a lot of memories of how I grew up. I also grew up in another village called Isaleodo, and so I was that boy that Ikorodu boy. You don't really know too much about what's going on outside that world because you're limited. Your understanding of the world is just within those confines. And after my basic six education, we were poor, so I couldn't go to school for 2 years because my parents couldn't pay the tuition. And it was in that time I found chess. And when I eventually started school, chess was a part of the subject. And so I became really good, like really, really good. I won a tournament and went to school on a scholarship and on and on. So chess gave me a way out. But then I did not leave Ikorodu till like 2015. The first time I ever went to eyebrow area, like Lekki, right, was in 2015, right? So you can imagine how I felt as a full-grown adult for the first time to see high-rise buildings and just be in a different place that was a lot different from my entire life, like the reality I'd always known, right? So it was an important mind shift for me, right? And chess gave me that way to see the world beyond the confines of Ikorodu. I saw the world beyond those confines. I saw the world as a place of possibilities, right? I was different because I learned chess. I would always go out for tournaments and I became really good. So at that young age, I knew that if I had the mastery of chess, right, I could become anything, I could do anything else. And even as a child, right, that really guided me, right? It gave me a lot of confidence. So a lot of these things that chess instilled over time, critical thinking, it stayed with me and it made me believe that even when I was just this boy from the corridor, I could do anything. And I mean, 5 years ago, I started chess in slums. But before chess in slums, I was already sorry. Um, Sorry, please hold on. All right. So, sorry. So yeah. So 5 years ago, I started chess in slums. So before I started chess in slums, I was doing something already. I was already teaching chess. I was working as a chess coach. I was working with schools and I was teaching in private schools, right? So I had a business idea. Because when I finished school in 2015 and there was no job, there was nothing, I started teaching. So I used to teach in one local school in Moe Wayside, right? I used to sleep in the classroom then because I lived in Ikorodu, so I didn't always want to have to go all the way from Moe to Ikorodu and all of that. So I started teaching kids computer and music because I used to play the piano then, and I knew, a little about computers, at least enough to teach it. So yeah. So while I was doing that, I realized I fell in love with teaching. I fell deeply in love with teaching because I saw how children were different from us, right? Children see the world with curious eyes, right? And it's just fascinating because we just treat them like, oh, children, you don't know anything. But then they don't know as much as we do, but then they know things differently, they experience things differently. And it was interesting to me to see how teaching them could really influence their growth, really influence the person that they would become. So I took it very seriously and I fell in love with it. Right. So on one of those days, the proprietor just brought a chess board and asked who could play. He didn't know I was a professional then. And I just said I could teach them. And that was how I started teaching chess. And I just decided to leave the school and I said I wanted to start my own business where I'll be teaching chess in schools to earn, I mean, it wasn't as rosy that I thought it would be. And I did it for 3 years between 2015 and 2018. I was living in Ikorodu, but I used to go everywhere in Lagos to teach chess. And in that time, I taught more than 2,000 children how to play chess. And I saw the tremendous benefits it had in their lives, right? And in 2018, I made that decision to go back to where I grew up in Ikorodu to teach them chess there. And what informed that decision? This one is not something I've said a lot of times, right? So, but I'll share it today. So while I was teaching chess in private schools, I used to teach the school, all girls school, Vivian Fowler, right? And on one of those days, I was just teaching the girls, they're secondary school girls, and you know how secondary school girls can be very rude sometimes, And so one of those days, one of the girls just asked, Uncle, this chess you are teaching yourself, like, what's the relevance? Why do we even need to know chess? Like, is this so that we can become a chess teacher like you? So that was when it dawned on me that, oh, wow, right? So the understanding of it was, maybe the chess is good at it. So why are you a teacher in our school here with your concussion? You know that yeah, anyway. Yeah. But I mean, I wasn't offended. All of us were just laughing, and but then it made me just think about like the things I wanted to do because truly I loved teaching chess. I loved spending time with children, but I wasn't earning a lot, and I was still, Sakwa was still dealing with me, and what she said seemed justified, right? Because so the way I just thought about it was that maybe after all, I mean, these are children that use iPhone X, the latest iPhones, they're just in secondary school. Maybe they're not the ones that truly needed it because they would never really understand the value, right? So I just thought, how about I just make out some time to also teach children that cannot actually be in school, right? The ones that don't have access to education. So it was that thought that led me on that path that, okay, how about chess for the children in places that do not have access to education, right? So I went back to where I grew up in Ikorodu, a different place, and one of those days, I just took a few chess sets, and they couldn't speak any English, right? So I remember I used to Google silly things like how to teach chess in Yoruba, how we chess put food on the table. I used to ask myself a lot of silly questions because I knew people were going to ask me, right? And that's the first thing I'd like to share with you guys, right? The first time when you decide to do something, to be an outlier, the moment you decide that you want to do something that is not popular, you want to do something, right, that feels like purpose for you. You want to do something that people do not understand. People will challenge it, right? People will challenge that idea that you have, right? But now, for you, it is your responsibility to have unwavering faith in that idea, right? That idea that you can do something to impact lives, that you can do something to change the world. You need to have complete faith in that idea because people would ask you questions, people will criticize it and be like, this doesn't make any sense. Why not do this instead? Right? People that give up on their own dreams, right? People that did not have the courage, right, to believe in their ideas, right? They're going to tell you that no, this you can't do this. These are the cons, right? How about when this happens, right? And for me, it was that you want to be doing charity. At the time I was 22, 23, right? It didn't make any sense because at that point in my life, I could be doing anything else, right? I'd even decided that I was going to stop teaching chess, take another IT course. I was also planning to jackpot. This one, I was even planning it actively. My parents had to call their pastor. I knew somebody in the US. They wanted to process my traveling and all of that. But I had an idea. And I had an idea that I thought could shape the future, right? And I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was obsessed about the idea that chess could actually change lives. And this was the mindset behind it, right? I taught chess to more than 2,000 children in private schools. I had seen children that used to be last in class. Like I'd seen serious academic improvement. I'd seen parents call me to pray for me that their kids are doing better. I'd seen children with zero confidence go from zero to I'd seen children with zero social skills go from zero to this. And I thought these children are here, they can benefit from this because they're paying so much money to their school, and the school pays me stipends to teach them chess. And the cognitive benefits, social benefits. How about children that would never get to know, that would never get to have access to the opportunity? After all, so it's because someone taught me chess at some point. That is why that was what gave me access to this skill, to this that was what gave me access to a world outside those confines that poverty put me in. And how about those children? And I just kept thinking about it. And I thought that, look at this, all my life, whenever I told people I could play chess, right, the first perception would be, oh, you must be a very intelligent person, right? I mean, while that may not necessarily be true, because intelligence for me is relative, right? But then it held me to the standard where I wanted to do intelligent things. It gave me the confidence that if I could master a game as prestigious as chess, that I could do anything else. So it made me very intellectually inclined, right? And it made me understand that my mind was my most valuable asset, right? Even if I didn't have anything, even if we didn't have money, even if we were poor. And I wanted to give that benefit to children like me in those slums who do not even have any idea of the opportunities that exist in our world because they don't have an education, and a lot of them have to do menial jobs to support their parents. And I mean, I'm sure some of you are already in the development space. So telling you about the problems of children in slum communities is just like preaching to the choir. It's obvious. When they say 100 million Nigerians are in multidimensional poverty, you know that it is the children that bear the most brunt of this. So I had this idea that if I could teach them chess and they could become good at it, right, it would give them some sort of intellectual branding, right? What that means is that now, when you close your eyes and you visualize a child in poverty from the ghetto, from the slums, The image that comes to mind is a picture of a child in tattered clothes that probably has kwashiorkor, that is starving, and all of those things. But then you don't think about a child that looks refined and healthy, right? But then, what if we could create something where that image isn't one of poverty, but one that instead shines spotlights on the potential that they have? So what this means is that if they can gain mastery of chess, you wouldn't just look at them as another number. Oh, poor child. You just pity them and drive off, that kind of thing. You would respect that child because he has shown intellectual capacity for something. So that means that you're not going to judge that child based on what they look like on the background, but you're going to judge them on the premise, judge them based on what they have the ability to do, right? The world will judge you, right? And people will pity you, people will have different opinions, right? But the one thing that they can never take away from you, the one thing that would always speak for you is what you have the ability to do. No one can take that away from you. And I knew that if I could teach them chess and they could show, mastery of it, the world will only judge them based on what they had the ability to do. And when you respect these children, you'd listen to them. And when you listen to them, you'd feel a much deeper connection with their plight, right? And you're going to give them access to the opportunities they deserve. Because imagine them doing this at chess. Now imagine if you give them an education, imagine if you give them the internet, imagine if you give them technology, imagine if you give them anything else, right? It should be the same result because ultimately they have the capacity, they have the potential, and potential must be realized, right? And that was just the mindset. And I kept building on this idea that if children from the slums could gain mastery of chess, right, people will look at them differently, right? It should cause people to pause and think about the many children that we neglect on a daily basis because we only see them as a random statistic of poverty, right? And I was obsessed with this idea and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I would like to use a small chess analogy. Sorry, permit me for those that don't play chess. So there's a piece in the game of chess called the pawn, right? Now, the pawn is the least valuable piece. It has a value of just 1 point, but then it has a superpower. So that superpower is if the pawn matches all the way to the final rank, it becomes a queen. The queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard, right? So what that tells you is that in chess, the small one can become the big one, right? So it just needs to march all the way to the end of the board. It will be very difficult because there are other officers, there are a lot of traps, there are a lot of problems. It will be tough for you to march a pawn to the end of the board. But if it successfully gets there, right, it becomes a coin, the most powerful piece. So that is the story of the pawn, right? The story of becoming, right? And for me, it is the greatest miracle of chess, right? That the least valuable piece can go on to become the most valuable piece. And this analogy, this chess analogy, truly reflects, the essence of the chess and stamps project. That the small one can become the big one, right? That it is indeed possible, right, for great things to happen in a small place. But somebody needed to shine spotlight in that small place, right? Because it's when you can get, people to pay attention to those places, right? That is when you begin to see, the opportunities that exist there. And the moment I was able to answer that question in my mind, I just took my chessboard. I resigned from church. I used to play piano that time. I just resigned from church that, see, I'm no more playing piano. My Saturdays and Sundays, I want to dedicate them to going to Majidun slum community to be teaching the children chess every Saturday and Sunday. I had a very strong conviction. I made a lot of foolish sacrifices because of this, right? And I passed on an opportunity to travel out of the country. I got a job in Atlanta to teach chess in a school. I said I wasn't going to go because I'd found one thing, and that was the thing that set my soul on fire. And I was completely obsessed. I was delusional. Okay, it will work. And the funny thing was, it was a social project, right? It's not a business. What I did before in schools was a business that wasn't even profitable. I stopped because I wanted to focus on this. And in that moment, I found purpose. Now, that's the first step. I think for a lot of us, many of us might have found purpose. And when you find purpose, it's the most important decision you'd ever make. The rest is just a matter of tenacity, right? I found purpose. And that purpose was driven with a very strong conviction that I could tell a new story for the child in the slums, for children in poverty. I could tell a new story for children like me, right, in those places, in those unlikely places. And that was, we just kept going and going every year, every Saturday and Sunday. Between 2018 and 2020 January, if we missed any Saturdays, it was maybe like 5 times or so, right? We're there consistently. I loved teaching kids, right? And boy, oh boy, the kids were learning at an incredible pace. It was unbelievable. Like children that couldn't speak English, they were using words like prophylaxis. It was just beautiful to see. And I didn't stop because of that. I mean, there was no money, there was nothing, nobody saw what we're really doing. But I didn't stop because I had seen the results of my conviction, right? It was there. I wasn't a crazy person after all, right? I saw that. Look at this. Look at these children. Look at when we met them. Look at the things they can do now, right? And I started sharing their story. And when I started doing that, people started saying it, right? Oh, when people, oh, can I volunteer? Can I join in? Oh, I don't know how to play chess, so but I would like to help. I'm like, no problem. Come, just come and be helping us take pictures. Oh, another person. Oh, no problem. Come, just come and help us with, distributing snacks and all of that. Then we started incorporating things like basic vocabulary. And one day, somebody just saw a story I shared and was like, wow, that child, I would like to sponsor that child to school forever, right? And that moment, I just paused. Like, okay, so a child can get scholarship because I shared the story. Then I wrote another one. Then another child, someone reached out and said they would like to sponsor the child's education. And I wrote another one, and the children kept getting scholarships because I was sharing their stories with the world, right? And prior to that time, I didn't know I could write because I had never really written before. But it became a necessity because while I was teaching them chess, the children used to come to me with their other problems, right? Uncle Tunde, I don't have shoes. Uncle Tunde, I don't have money. My parents have not eaten since yesterday. Uncle Tunde, I don't have pencil. And me, so Uncle Tunde too was broke because I was also in trenches there, right? So what I did was I shared those things that they needed. I just shared it with the world, right? See, these are the children that we're training in our academy, and they have incredible potential, but they don't have access to these basic things that we take for granted. And people stood up for them. People came and started supporting. The children were getting scholarships. And it just dawned on me that chess in itself was not just the end, it became a means to an end, right? And I knew that we had found an educational solution for children in those slum communities, right? And I mean, the rest, as they say, is history because we didn't really do anything. There's nothing we do now that we didn't start doing some 4 years ago. We just kept doing it. We went from Ikorodu to Makoko to Oshodi, went to Burkina Faso, and we just kept sharing the gift of chess with children in those unlikely places, right? And it was a gradual thing. I think our biggest break came when we decided to move from Ikorodu to Makoko, and we thought we organized a 2-week pilot phase where we taught the kids chess, and we did a tournament. And the boy that won it was a 10-year-old boy with cerebral palsy. And the governor saw it and just called me and was like, "Hi, Tunde, I know how to play chess, so I would like to meet that boy." And that was it. That was how the boy's life, changed forever. A little boy with cerebral palsy, and he went to the doctor, to the governor's office there, and he sat down, and the governor was trying to talk to him. He was just arranging his chessboard, and they played. The game ended in a draw, though. And for a boy that had only been playing chess for 2 weeks, realized that he was gifted. And this boy lives with cerebral palsy, cannot talk, cannot walk properly, cannot even move his hands properly. But this boy was a genius. His mind was powerful. And I couldn't just believe it. During the training process, we saw that it was good. It was really gifted. But then he won the tournament, and it was amazing. And I shared that story, and it went viral. And people came, people supported this. Wow, wow. And we went all out for the children. We made suits for them, because we wanted to change the perception, of slum children. We wanted to give them that different identity. Chess is a prestigious game. We wanted them to feel the prestige, that the game had, and wanted the world to see that. We didn't want to demean them because they were in Makoko or they were poor. We never shared pictures of them at their worst or anything, right? Because that is not how it works, right? If you use that to appeal to other people to help them, people would only help them because they pity them. But this wasn't just a pity party. This was a revolution. It was a revolutionary idea that something as basic, simple as chess, right, could change lives. Okay, sorry. And that was the story I wanted to share with the world. I didn't want to share another story of poverty. I wanted to share a story of potential, right? And and that was it. And we left Makoko and we went to Oshodi, and we all know about the Oshodi project. And yeah, and now. So my journey has been one with a lot of ups and downs, right? For me, I don't really like to dwell on the difficult things that I had to like encounter because there were a lot of moments like that, right? And that's just life, right? When you start out, that's the most difficult part. So the rest of it is just you just keep going, you just keep going, you just stay consistent, right? Continue to have unwavering faith in your idea. Someday you would have your moment, and all those sacrifices you've made, those days that you cried, those days that nobody really understood what you were going through. One day it would all count for something. Then it will make sense that, oh, I needed to have gone through this because it is in those moments of despair that we found our true strength, right? It's in those moments that we really discover how powerful we are, the things we can do, right? And I would like you guys to do something, right? Because the reason why I shared the backstory is for you to understand where I'm coming from, and where I'm going. Because my journey is not one that has ended. It's not where I started and I'm now successful. It's one that it's unraveling, keeps unraveling every day. It's just still me going on and on and on and on and on. And I thought about things I could share with you from that journey that you could find helpful. So I want you to draw a box somewhere. If you have a pen and paper, just draw a square like this and break it into four compartments. So you have your box, right? And there's a cross. So you have four different squares in that one box. I think we have 7 minutes. Sorry, I forgot to ask, how many minutes do I have? Um, or when this ends, are we going to join again?
Yes,
I choose,
yes.
or I need to wrap up?
We'll join again when this ends. Yeah. So,
Okay, okay, all right, all
yeah.
right then, okay. Um, all right, so just you can draw a box, and in the first box, top left, right, open. Um, the second one, the top right closed. Then the one on your bottom left, right, blind side, and the last one, right, dark side. So it's open, closed, blind side, dark side. Um, yeah, so open, closed, um, blind side, and dark side. So so now that's my own philosophy, like for becoming, because one thing you need to know is there's no final point, there's no end point, there's no I've gotten to this place and I'm now successful. So the first thing you need to do is to define success. Like I'm not sure, but I know the majority of the people here are in the development sector. At least I know for Raphael anyway. But it doesn't really matter what you do, in what capacity. So the open part about you, now these are the things that you know about yourself that other people know about you, right? And this is really a question of capacity, the capacity that you have. Now, this cup can only take as much water as this. Yeah, yeah. You can only take this much water. So the moment you fill this cup, you can't pour any more water in it. Say maybe 500 is it ml or something. I'm not sure, right? But if you keep pouring water, it's just to just spill out, right? So the capacity for this cup, it's not a lot, right? So think about it as what you have the capacity for, right? And you have to be completely honest with yourself, right? Know what your limits are. What are the things I have the capacity for right now? What are the things I can do, right? You need to first understand who you are, what other people know about you, what other people know you can do, right? That is the open part of you, right? Now, the thing is that this cup will never be able to take more water than it fills it up, right? So you have to increase capacity if you want more water, right? And increasing capacity, it's not really about the resources you have or whether you have money to do something, it's about that mental frame, that box that you put yourself in, right? Like there was a time I thought 100K was ultimate big money. And if I had 100K monthly, I'm going to be a Lagos big boy and just be flexing. At the time I thought 200K was big money. And it was just a mental frame. And eventually it just kept expanding and expanding because whenever I now made that much money, oh, okay. Whenever I now made, so it just kept expanding. Right. So that's how mental frames work. So you need to increase that capacity that you have to be able to take in more. So the first um, part of it is being very honest with what you have the capacity to do right now. Right now, you're building something. You're building a nonprofit. You're building a tech product. You're building your business. Whatever it is you're building, this is the capacity you have, right? And you need to do a lot more to get to the level that you want. So the first thing you need to do is to increase the threshold for pain, right? What makes you, at what point do you get comfortable, right? At what point do you feel like, well, this is what I want? Then what do you really aspire for, right? Be very honest about those things, right? Know that about yourself. You can write them down somewhere. These are the things I can do. These are the things I can do. I have the ability to do. Just write them down, right? Then we'll move on to the closed part. Now, the closed part of who you are. These are the things that you know about yourself that nobody else knows, right? Nobody else knows this, right? These are the things you know about yourself that no one else knows, right? So list them out. Those things that you know that you have not shared with the world that nobody else knows that you're just keeping in there in that corner. Identify those things. Then the blind side. Now these are the things that other people know about you, but then you don't know. People might just say, "Oh, you're a good speaker. You know you speak really well," and you're like, "Me, me that I'm always very nervous if they tell me to come and say anything." Or you just write something and people are like, "Wow, this is amazing," and you're like, I don't know. I just write once in a while, and but people tell you, but you don't believe because people used to tell me that I could write, but I didn't believe till I started writing because writing became a necessity because I needed to share the stories of the children so people could help them, and I couldn't help them. And I was really bad with punctuation, so I was always afraid because whenever I wrote anything, I'll read it and be like, man, this doesn't make any sense, and I will just not share it. I wrote a lot of things between 2015 and 2019. I never shared any of them because I was scared of how people would react to it, if it was good enough. I used to see other people write things and mine didn't just make any sense. So identify those things that people know about you, people tell you, right? But you don't know that about yourself. But people just tell you, and you just, oh, okay, write them down because you have to start believing them now, right? And it's important, right, that those things that are in your blind side, right, you bring them to light. Now, the final one is the dark side. This is the most important one, and it is my understanding of like the things that were in my dark side that changed my entire life. Right, it changed my perception of everything. I think we have less than a minute now. So all right, so I'll rejoin the call. So you guys can just rejoin, and I'll just summarize. All right, I mean, I think I'll just proceed. All right, so the dark side, this are the things that you don't know about yourself yet, and nobody knows about you. And this is the most important part of who you are, right? It's the part of you that you don't know yet, right? And I remember recently I was I was at Ife for the Royal Awards, and the king, we had dinner with the king, and he said so. He said something. He said I guess, dedicated his entire life, right, to opening doors of opportunities for young people, right? That his entire time, on the throne, that is dedicating it to the youth because he believes so much in their future. Because old people, they've already done what you know they need to do, right? You already know what they can do. But for young people, so you don't know what they can do tomorrow. Like you don't know what they can become, right? And the fact that that young person, given the right opportunities, can become something phenomenal tomorrow, right? That is willing to take that bet on them, right? He's not going to bet on people that they've already done what they need to do and that's it. He's willing to take on bet on people that have not even discovered what they want to do, right? Because he believes that that is where, you know, innovation lies. That is where breakthrough for the future, that is where it lies. And that is where everything, the best things that will happen to you, that is where those things lie, your dark side, right? You must embrace it, right? That is one thing you must embrace, that dark side. You don't know anything about that dark side. No one knows anything about that. So how do you really unravel the side of you? Because that is the side that the world is waiting for, right? And those were my dark years, right? And you need to have that face, right? When you begin to unravel the dark sides that you have. For me, it started with reading a lot of books. I read books. I read every book I needed, you know, to be a better writer, right? About chess, about children. I read everything that was relevant to what I needed to do, right? I wanted to understand the kind of opportunities that existed in this ecosystem, right? You're doing a nonprofit, you're not running a nonprofit. What kind of opportunities do you have? Who are the major stakeholders here? What do you have? What's your leverage? I needed to understand this thing because what we were doing was revolutionary. It wasn't really something that anyone else had ever done before at this scale, especially using chess, right? At this scale in Nigeria. So we're leading something that was different. And when you do different, people will criticize, people will ask questions, people would criticize what they don't understand. And that's just life, and you can't do anything about it. So, how do you prepare yourself for that, knowing fully well that you didn't start out with the capacity for it, or you don't have the competence for it? Then you have to search deep into your dark side, right? Because your dark side is going to reveal yourself to you, the deepest part of yourself, and the things you didn't even know you had the capacity for begins to slowly unravel, right? And it was in that moment that I discovered my gift. I discovered everything that I had, everything I knew I could do. From that boy that used to be very shy and reserved, I used to be at the back, I didn't want to talk, I didn't want to do anything. I had to become a leader. I had to become not just a leader, a charismatic leader, to be able to lead people, right? To be able to inspire people, right? To believe in your vision. Because I knew I needed people that the things I wanted to do, I couldn't do them alone. I read books, I listened a lot to people, right? And that dark side began, there was a revelation of light, right? Reading books, learning, listening to your great predecessors and all of that, you know, it was a light to my path, right? And I remember even praying to God, about what I needed to do because I needed to be convinced. Because any decision you make for your future that looks like purpose is a risk. Because if you do it and it doesn't work out, then you are 10 years stuck, down the line. Yeah, you decided you want to be a musician, but then you became a failed musician because it just didn't work out. Not because you were not passionate enough or you put everything into it, but then it just didn't work out because out of 10 million people that want to be musicians, it's maybe only 100 that will become successful, right? So any decision you make that is purpose and you decide to follow through with it to the very end, it's a very big risk, right? Some 7, 10 years ago, some people made a decision to get deeply into cryptocurrency, right? And it wouldn't have made sense that time, but now most of them are millionaires, right? So that is just life. The moment you decide to take that road less traveled, right, you have taken the biggest risk of your entire existence, right? And that decision, right, is a powerful vote for who you want to become, right? So I prayed about it, and God just asked me, He said, what do you have in your hands, right? And I told him that I had chess because that was my talent. I was really good at chess. I was one of the best in the country. And he said, "Are you willing to lose it so I can use it?" Right. So what I didn't understand what that question meant. Like, are you willing to lose that thing that you have in your hand? Right. So it becomes mine to use. And what he was trying to make me understand was that that talent, are you willing to give it as a gift? Right? Because the talent to you, the skill that you have, it's one thing. It serves only your own interest. But then when you share with other people, it becomes a gift to them, right? So you're giving the gift of yourself, of the best part of yourself, of your skill, of your ability, right? You're giving that gift to other people, right? And it becomes a part of their story. And I prayed to God, and that understanding that the talent that I had, I was going to start giving it to little children as gifts. It becomes a gift because it adds to their identity. It becomes a part of their story. 10 years down the line, a child will say, "Oh, I'm a chess champion now because Uncle today taught me that this is a pawn, this is a knight." And that was the beginning of my journey. And your gift becomes a part of another person's story, right? And I was like, yes, I'm willing to lose it so we can use it, so that my talents can become a gift to other people, right? And that was it. That was the beautiful story of unraveling my dark side, right? And I just started with the first step. I kept going on and on and on and on. And, one day it came to light and the world saw it. And when the world saw it, they were like, wow, who is this guy? Who is this person? Who is this Oshodi guy that went to Oshodi? How is this guy talking to area boys like this? How is this guy doing this? How did Patrick Evra come to Oshodi Under Bridge? How did he bring the Canadian embassy to Oshodi Under Bridge? How did all of these things happen? Right. And to me, I was just like, well, they don't know. Right? Because it looks like, wow, it just happened suddenly. But then it didn't just happen suddenly. I was preparing for this moment, right? I was already on the path of unraveling what my dark side was. And it's like you have this, you're driving, right, at night, and your headlamps, they can only see as far as maybe 50 meters. But then the more you keep going, the farther you keep going, that light, keeps revealing the path, and it just goes on and on and on, right? That was the path that I traveled in my dark side to bring light to the things that I could truly become. And you have to walk that path every day, like going into that dark side, by putting light into it to discover the best part of yourself. That every day, like we make a decision, right? Self, I'm going to become this that I'm going to become the best part of myself, the best version of myself today, because it is not just about me or the skills that I have or the talents, because I have the gift to share with the world, right? And the world is counting on that. I knew I was going to meet children. I didn't know their names yet, but my vision was that I was going to share this gift of chess with 1 million children in Africa over the next 10 years. And I knew that their hopes and dreams could depend on my ability to tell their stories in the most compelling way. It could depend on my understanding of the business acumen that I had to be able to sell the story to the world in a way that people don't just pity them and be like, ah, Oma show, but then they'll see them and are inspired by their story enough to help, enough to change their lives. I was very critical about these things. I was very particular about these things. I told myself these things every day that hey, I was going to try even harder and I was going to keep being the best version of myself because the hopes and dreams of thousands of children could depend on it. And if Chess and Slums became successful, to mean that thousands of children too, they would have their stories rewritten, right? And it wasn't just going to be another story of the poor African child in poverty. So it's going to be a new story of potential, right? And I asked myself that, who do I want to become, right? What do I want to be remembered for? I want to be remembered as the guy who thought it was possible to do great things from a small place. And I believe this myself every day, right? People saw it and are like, oh, wow, this is an amazing quote. But I internalized it a lot more than most people because I told myself every day that I needed to believe this to be able to do the things I needed to do. And when that time came that the world saw it, I was already prepared, right? I knew what to do, right? When people started reaching out, I got thousands of emails, thousands of messages. I gained almost 200,000 followers in weeks. Everything just happened at the same time, right? And it just remember this quote by Lenin, that there are, you know, there are days when I'm trying to phrase it properly. When decades happen in a week, there are decades when nothing happens, right? And there are weeks when decades happen. So my decade in a week just happened, but then I built capacity for it. I built competence for it, and I can tell you for a fact today that that time will come for you. I promise you, as long as you stay on this path, right, you're going to have that moment, right? But then when you have that moment and they give you, and the spotlight is on you, and everyone stops because the media right now, they're concerned about the frivolous things and everything else in the world. But then when we did our project, the entire media, right, digital media, everyone stopped and paused for a moment and said, wow, what is this? We need to listen to this person. CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, even the Olympics, that chess is not a part of the Olympics. They made an exception for us, right? We've been featured on all international and local media in the world, right? And those people paused and said, who is this person? What are these people doing? We need to listen to them. And on that day that the world pauses and they pay attention to you and they give you a microphone, what are you going to tell them, right? Because every time you open your mouth to say anything, you're telling the world who you are. So in that moment, what are you going to tell the world? What are you going to tell them? What are you doing right now? What have you built capacity for through the years? What have you stayed consistent with? What are you made of? Because when you talk, people will listen because you've done something phenomenal, right? And you have their attention now. So where do you pull that attention to, right? And for me, it was easy. It was just to my course. See, we're doing great things from a small place, and we need to scale this even further, right? And success scale. So this was how it happened for me, really. And I think when people interview successful people and ask them these questions, it just seems like they're saying the same things, right? And well, but that's the truth, right? It's in the discovery of who you are, understanding the things you have the ability to do now, and in understanding what you really want to become, right? The moment you can transition, make that transition from who you are and what you can become, right? Then you made the best decision for yourself. And the rest is just a matter of consistency, right? And in the context of like social development, we've never received any grants. We've actually never applied for any grants. We've never applied for any. But then we've gotten support, like a lot of support, countless support, right? But we've never applied for any grants. And this was intentional on my part because I wanted to do something when we started out. I wanted us to just keep bootstrapping, right? Because I wanted us to do the work and not be bothered about the things we didn't have. We're going to make do with the resources that we had, and we're just going to bootstrap all the way. So we got to a point where okay, we don't have anything anymore, right? And I wrote down four things, right? And I think this is the part where you understand the opportunities that exist in your ecosystem, right? I knew that I was doing chess and slums, right? And the problem is to solving was education, right? We're educating the mind. We were using chess as a tool to aid cognition. And then we were using it to give children in slums an intellectual identity. Because when you think about chess, you only think about the elites, the intellectuals, the rich, billionaires, the CEOs. You don't think about children in poverty. We wanted to change that. So I wrote it down that the first place in our ecosystem is the humanitarian space. Okay, UNICEF, United Nations, we have opportunities are there. Then the next one is educational institutions, right? What if we had an exchange program with Harvard University where the college students in Harvard would compete with the children here in Makoko and in Ikorodu? So I wrote it down, educational institutions. So what else? Um, chess, the chess community around the world. Now, chess is a global sport, right? It is played in all countries in the world. For example, I have a FIDE rating. What that means is I can travel to any country in the world to compete without having those visa problems, right? So there's a community around it, a global community, right? And that is very important because I think the major reason why Africa really has The major reason why growth, as a continent has been stunted, right, is because we don't have access, right? And I needed something that could bridge an important gap, right? There was a time we had a match with a university in California, children in Ikorodu, and they held them to a draw, right? So I wanted to them to be a part of that community so that a child in Makoko can have access to somebody in MIT and they could have common ground through chess because chess is a universal language. So I wrote it down that, okay, chess community around the world, right? And when I was writing these things down, I had no idea how to even reach out to these people or how to, go seeking for these opportunities. And the final one I wrote was, what was I can't see where our opportunities were, right? Those rulers, oh no, we didn't want to start with know anything an NGO and all of those things. Even if I'm doing that, then I won't have time to define. We just leverage this one opportunity by taking them for tournaments and these things, build around the chess community. That was easy because I already knew how that worked, right? So I also did these very practical things. And these are things that you write down and just write it down. Always write anything that comes to your mind, anything, whatever insight, whatever revelation about the work that you do. Always write them down. It's important that you write it down, write the vision down, and you see it every day, right? You need that inspiration, right? You need to be constantly reminded of the things that you want to do because nobody is going to give you that push, that motivation. It's when you become successful that everybody wants to come. But in those dark years that you are unraveling your dark side, you have to do that work, right? And you have to do it, you have to be very intimate with it, right? You have to be very intimate with it in a way that people will think you're crazy. But then remember, you have an idea that can shape the future, right? And you must be relentless in pushing that idea into the world. On a final note, right? Recently I started reading a book, The Paradox of Prosperity. And so the book was trying to really talk about. I'd watched a couple of TED Talks, and it was written by a professor in Harvard and a Nigerian, Efosa Ojomo. So I'd watched his TED Talk, and I went to message him on Twitter. I just saw he already followed me, and he already even sent me a message before. And this was one that was deeply inspired by his TED Talk video when he talked about poverty, how we could really reimagine what poverty meant, right? Because for a lot of us in the nonprofit sector, right, we're trying to eradicate poverty, but the world, people that have resources have not eradicated poverty yet. Africa has gotten a lot of grants and grants and grants in billions of dollars, but then poverty has only gotten worse, obviously, right? And I mean, it has helped in some cases, but obviously it hasn't really been sustainable because the idea of eradicating poverty is just not practical. It's impossible because even the Bible says the poor will never cease from the land, and that's how society works, right? There would always be that, right? So now, how can you really solve problems for people? It's by really innovating around it. The idea of solving poverty is not possible. So how about why not create prosperity, right? Through innovation, right? And it just made me rethink the entire thing about solving poverty and all of that. So things like these are things I think about because when you are given the microphone, when you go to talk in places where major stakeholders are, you need to be different, right? You need to see things differently. You need to see things that not everyone else knows because everyone else has just the same script. They've exhausted our scripts that, oh, poverty, this, that, this, right? But just go there and talk about things differently. Like you have a solution, right? You're not there to demean the people that you represent, people you're advocating for, but you have a solution that can bring them prosperity. I think chess can bring prosperity to a child because number one, it gives them that intellectual identity. It gives them education. It's not just the end in itself; it becomes a means to an end because through chess, they're getting educational opportunities, right? And the skills that they're going to gain over time, right? You may not solve their hunger problems immediately because you can, if you give them food today, they'll be hungry tomorrow. But then these things that they're going to learn, right, will become a part of their identity. And I remember the first thing I told you was that everything that has been created in this world was as a function of a reasoning mind. Every single thing from the computer to your mobile phone, because somebody used his mind and thought about what was possible, and it just became reality. So when we really do things to invest in the minds of children like this, who otherwise will never have access, you create prosperity. It will not happen immediately, but over time, those things will stay with them. And that is how you really create prosperity, and that is sustainable, right? And I would realize this thing over and over again, right? And like I said, there's no end point. This is still the journey for me. And I'm still unraveling my dark side, right? And every time I read a book, every time I listen, every time I go out and listen to people, every time I try new things and I fail, I'm unraveling my dark side. And you must fall in love with that process of unraveling every single day of your life. Because one day you're going to shine light and the spotlight will come upon you. And the world will ask you, what are you made of? What do you want to do? What are you doing? So what are you going to tell them would be a result of the things you've worked on right now when nobody was looking at you. These are your quiet years. So please stay consistent, stay on the journey. And what I drew, the box, the open, the closed, blind side, the dark side, think about it, right? Think about it, write things about it, right? From your own perception, right? It's just my own ideology, my own philosophy for life, right? But you really think about it and personalize it, what it means to you and what you want it to become, and I wish you guys all the best. I'd always be rooting for you. And I mean, in any capacity that I can support whatever it is that you do, just please let me know. Right now, I'm trying to do a lot of things, but things are, calming down a little. But I'm very dedicated to sharing the little things that I know. I don't know it all. Like, I'm just really still discovering and learning and unlearning many things. But please reach out. I'll be happy to share, a bit of it. And I hope that one day, and I know that one day, you will have your chance to tell the world who you are. And thank you very much.
Amazing, amazing. Everyone, can we all tell Mr. Tunde thank you before I move to the question part of this session tonight? This was more than a master class. I didn't even know Tunde still has the energy to talk this long. I think we've rejoined the meeting like twice tonight, and everyone, it feels like we're just starting. Wow, thank you all for your hunger and passion to learn. And let's say thank you to Mr. Tunde before I start asking him some of your questions and some particular questions we had that I wanted to ask him at the ELC Summit, which we couldn't ask him. Thank you so much, Tunde, for doing this. Please, I hope there's a bottle of water beside you. We are fans of drink water.
Yes.
Doctor. So you need to sip
Thank
a bit of water before I start throwing the questions. So everyone, say
Yeah,
thank you, Mr. Tunde. Shout in the comments section. Let him feel the love. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful one, and it's just the vulnerability for me. Your willingness to share and inspire, and I believe everyone has picked something from Mr. Tunde's session tonight. All right, so quickly, so I don't waste any more time, I would ask the first question I got here from Dotun. Dotun is asking, she said, at the beginning of your social impact work, how were you able to convince people to partner with you on something so unconventional? It's a very good question. Tunde, did you get that?
All right. Yeah, I did. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, one word for it would be unconventional, right? But the way I saw it as a revolution. You know what they say about, it's unstoppable, right? And I call it a revolution because we picked chess. Chess is just, many people just see it as a board game. It has been there for more than 2,000 years. And we re-evolved it, revolution to re-evolve something. So all that means is that we give it a new meaning, right? So the meaning we gave it was that we viewed a different essence to it. For most people, that had always just been a board game or a tool for strategy. But then I saw it as an identity, right? So we give it that new meaning, that an identity for children in these unlikely places, a new identity for them, so the world could see that children in the slums can also be intellectually, you know, and also be intellectually inclined. That is that live there. And I remember we tried to reach out to a few organizations, and I'm a very relentless person because I've had to fail a lot of times. So in chess, you lose. One thing you have to. The reason why most people don't know how to play chess is because maybe they played one time and they lost and they gave up. So that's just a part of chess. You are going to lose a lot of time. Sometimes it will be painful. The first time I lost in primary six, I was crying, right? And most children that I teach now, when they lose their first game, they'll be crying. I'll just look at this one. You just started losing. So in some way, it kind of conditioned me to see losing and failure as a part of the process, right? So I was very relentless. I used to reach out to like people. I would just have an idea. I would think that these children have never eaten pizza before, and after every training session, we give them food. So I will reach out to the Domino's Pizza that please can you sponsor, give us food for our chess training. A lot of them never responded anyway. A lot of organizations that I reached out to, right? Because we're just another NGO, right? And I think storytelling helped. Storytelling really helped. And I think this is something we have to this is something that is very significant. Like it's very important to whatever it is you're building. Your ability to sell what you do properly, your ability to articulate what you do in a very compelling way, right? Before it used to be when I used to talk about chess and slums, I used to talk about the technicalities of it, right? How chess aids critical thinking, how chess, builds creativity, how they could start learning about prophylaxis, how they could start learning about, strategy, the center of the board. No one really understood that, honestly, because not everyone plays chess or cares enough about chess. It's just one hard, boring game. That's just the perception, and that's the reality of things. You can't change that. So I think when I started telling different stories around it, people began to see how they could be involved in this, right? So it's not just a story about the child and how the child had the potential as a coin, right? And so changing that communication, right? That was when, for example, that was when my friends started coming to volunteer with us because they were like, "Oh, okay, so okay, we can also do this," because they thought it was only because if they could play chess that they could really help, right? But they didn't know they could help in other ways. So most organizations that we now started reaching out to then, they now saw that okay, we could do this, we could do that, and there was clarity. So that clarity must be communicated effectively. I mean, now you don't have to reach out to anyone now because we still have at least 1,000 partners that we've not even responded to and all of that. And God has been really kind, to us, right? But there was also a time that nobody actually listened to us. But through storytelling, I mean, storytelling brought the entire thing to limelight, even during the Oshodi project. So I'll incorporate storytelling, tell stories around what you do, right? Become a hopeless romantic like me. This is just a cup with water, but I could talk about it in a way that is romantic, right? So today you went to an outreach and you met a child, and the way the child was smiling and talk about it very intimately, how it made you feel, because the world wants to live vicariously through you. Many people care about humanity, right? But they would always say, I want to help people, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it, or when I become a billionaire. But you have the courage, you are on that path, you're the outlier that has decided to do this regardless of you having resources. And people see what you do. They want a connection. So that connection is very important. And through your words, through your insights, through your own experiences, that they can leave those experiences with you. They cannot be there with you in those places, in your outreach, in your work to change the world. But it's the way you are able to communicate the things you felt. So what I do is that I share the things I feel with the world. Whenever I go on Twitter, on Facebook, or I want to make a video or whatever it is, I'm sharing what I felt when I was with children. I'm sharing it with you so you can feel the same things. Because when you feel it, you feel more connected to them and you're able to find, where to help. So when you do that, brands see that, organizations see that, and it compels them to really.
All right. Thank you so much, Tunde. Now, my next question is, What is the greatest lesson you've learned so far?
Okay, the greatest lesson I've learned. There are a lot of lessons. Um, I think the most important one is um, I wrote this thing down sometime. Hold on. Yes, there was something I wrote. Let me. I want to read it word for word. Yes. So um, yeah. So it writes. I phrased it like this: like walk into more rooms, saying I'm here to help, and become more intimate with generosity. So I think that's the biggest lesson, and that is what has changed my life because I I took what I had, right, and I wanted to use it to help, right, and maybe then I didn't even understand it, right, but it's a way to live, right? It's something you must internalize in a way that it becomes a part of your personality. That whenever you go somewhere, you're offering service. Service is very important. It's not, it doesn't have to be on a grand scale that you want to change the world, but in the very little things, whether you're volunteering, whether you do, just walk into more rooms with, hey, look, I'm here to help. I'm here to become a part of the solution. I think it's the most important lesson for me because kindness is very attractive. And when people begin to see that, wow, this person is kind enough, is always wanting to help. And so it just reflects in what I do, right? I like to believe I'm a very kind person because I go out of my way and do foolish things sometimes to help people, to support the people I care. So chess and slums is just an expression of it. It's not because of chess and slums that I became a kind to help. So it's because I was that person. I always wanted to support and help with anything that I had. So it just led me on that path to use what I had, which is just chess, right? To use it as a way to help people and tell a new story about them. So remember, it's an important lesson, right, to be very intimate with generosity and to walk into every room saying, see, I'm here to help, I'm here to serve, and I'm here to contribute value to whatever it is you're doing. Do it for your friends, do it for whatever, at your workplace, do it to the people you care about. And, you know, it will reveal it, something, it will reveal the best part of you ultimately, right? And it's the greatest thing in the world, right? To do things that serve other people and that serves humanity. And when the world sees that, oh my God, you're going to have beautiful social capital, right? And there are people that call me to like, Tunde, hope you're well, right? Even the MD of Sterling Bank, for example, he calls me to be like, Today, I hope you're doing well. How are you? If you ever need to do anything, just let me know. And there are people like that, that even if I had a PhD or something, I would never earn that kind of respect from them, right? That people, I'm talking about people, like
That's
people,
right. That's right.
world leaders, and all of that. So it's important that kindness, your ability to help, to be very generous with helping people and being kind is going to earn you a lot of respect from some of the most powerful people in the world. Beyond having your PhD or becoming being anything, right? Beyond your own personal attainment. So it's the most important lesson. It is what has worked for me, and I hope you too.
Thank you very much, Tunde. All right, the next question. What are you learning now?
All right. So right now I'm learning to be a an entrepreneur, right? I'm learning to really put the entrepreneur in social because now I now discover that passion is not enough, right? Passion has brought me all the way this far, right? So I'm learning to be an entrepreneur, and what that means is that um, yes, it's good to be passionate. It's good. It's beautiful. It's the most important ingredient in your journey of purpose. You have to be deeply passionate about the things that you love to do and do them with that burning desire, that burning passion, that fire, right? But then You need to also have other things, business acumen, how to talk to people, how to identify the things that are important. So I'm really learning how to be a leader because one thing I've learned recently is that a leader is the greatest quality, of a leader is the ability to identify the things that are truly important and inspire his team to pursue them. Now, you're not telling your team that this is the thing we want to do right now, right? You're inspiring them to pursue them, right? Is the only way to do that, to really get those people to be deeply passionate, the way you're also passionate about that idea, is by inspiring them, not telling them, right? And this quote about if you want to get people to build a ship, don't tell them to carry plank, wood, or this thing, right? Teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. And doing what they need to do to bring that ship together would look like an adventure, right? So that's what I'm doing right now. Just learning to be an entrepreneur and learning to leverage opportunities better and understand the things that are truly important in the midst of all this distraction.
All right. Thank you very much, Tunde. Tunde, we would still need like 10 minutes from you, so we'll have to
No
rejoin
problem.
again.
I mean,
Thank you so
that's
much.
not cool.
Thank you so much.
Where you feel and you like the things didn't really work out the way like you wanted them to, and it becomes very painful, right? That is where we find our strengths, through those challenges, right? Now, I have too many examples of failure, like serious life altering examples, right? But I'd like to talk about this one. Um, so now my parents were poor, right? And my mom had to work as a cleaner in the school that I attended, so I could attend that private school. So if my mom didn't work there, I would have never gone. I would have never had access to like quality education because my secondary school really shaped my entire existence. Because my entire journey, my personality right now. I went to a Paco primary school. So in GSS one, and after my primary six, I was at home for 2 years. So in GSS one, I could not speak English properly, right? So my mom made a very important sacrifice then because they wanted to put me in a public school, Bakudu Grammar School in Koredo then. My mom said no. So because she said no, I had to stay home for 2 years. And when I eventually got into school, it was because she worked there as a cleaner and because she was a non-teaching staff, I didn't have to pay school fees. I didn't have to pay full school fees, so just half. And so everyone had high expectations for me because when I entered JSS one, I wasn't too brilliant. But eventually, most of my classmates were Boti kids. I was the only one that used to speak Yoruba, so most of them used to only speak English. So in some way, it rubbed off, right? And in SS3, I was the senior prefect, and everyone just had, expectations that Omo Yakuba or WAEC, and I did my WAEC at A State, I did my JAMB at A State, and my destiny was already chosen. Like I had to be a doctor because in my family, if you are not a doctor or a lawyer, you're a failure. And it's the same thing for most Yoruba families, right? Most families even, right? And I wanted to study medicine in Unilag, and I scored 70. And that year, this was 2011, the cutoff mark was 71 merit, and I didn't get in. And because my parents didn't know anyone, all my friends that went to school together because most of them are they're rich kids. Most of them traveled out to school abroad. Some of them did diploma, some of them did pre-degree, some of them went to private universities. I mean, I was the senior prefect because I missed my cutoff mark by 1 point. I had to stay after my right jump again. And I was broken. You know how as a child you don't really know if your parents are poor or not because you're already shielded by the school system. All of you go to school together wearing uniform. So it was at that point that I knew that, oh, it's because my parents are poor. That's why they can't send me to a private school or this, or pay for a diploma that was like 400K then or something. So I was just at home. I was teaching in one Paco school on my street, and it just dawned on me, right? And I hated everything. I hated the fact that my parents were poor. I hated the fact that my parents couldn't like do anything to help the situation. I hated God for putting me in that situation. My friends would always be talking about their school experiences. I mean, I was just miserable as a teacher in one school then. And and the second year too, I still didn't get in. I had 66 something, then cut off mark came down to 69. Then I eventually settled to go to Yaba Tech to do computer science, right? After all my life, I had said I would do medicine. I had read Gifted Hands, and why am I saying all of this, right? Um, I had that resentment in my heart, right, for the world, for that life was unfair, and I felt like a failure, and it just didn't make any sense to me, right? Until I met someone and he told me something, right, in 2015, I think, and that was the most important lesson I ever learned about failure, right? He puts something on the table. He puts these plastic bottles on the table. Then he put them at different locations on the table. So on the table, he wrote a finish line, right? And he puts one plastic bottle at the back. He puts one almost at the finish line, puts one in the center, puts one everywhere, just scatter them across. So now said, see, you're the one at the back, right? And there's somebody that is already almost at the finish line, right? And this is the line, right? And that is life, right? Sometimes, because you are even born in Nigeria, all the odds are already against you. You're already fighting from a country that, that has already created your identity for you, right? I mean, as a matter of fact, New York as a whole, the people in New York are more valuable than the entire Africa, right? It's just crazy that a country and a company, even, like, it's a lot more valuable than the entire continent, right? So he said, now this is it, all odds are against you, you were born poor and blah 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 blah, and that it has become your excuse, right? And he said, but now this is life. That is the finish line. That is where success is. And there's some people that were born in wealth and all of these things that have all the opportunities, and they're already at the finish line. So they just need to take one or two steps, right? But the beautiful thing about life's journey to the finish line is that it is not a race of who gets there first. So the first thing you need to do is you need to forgive yourself, embrace your story, right? Embrace it. Your past, your parents did not do this, blah, blah, blah. Forgive them, forgive yourself, and let it go. And now start walking down to that finish line. Because it doesn't matter if all these people get there before you. Life is not about who gets there first. The moment you get there, you have attained success. And when it becomes your time, all the failures, all the sacrifices, everything wouldn't matter. And from that point, failure became nothing to me. Because I knew that whatever thing I failed out at would never matter. Because I was going to get to the line at the end of the day. And it was my ability to walk my way through every failure that I faced, right? That would get me to that finish line. And failure just became dead to me. I was never going to fail again. For me, failure was going to be a part of my race down to that line, right? So I failed many times. I can't even begin to think about them. There were days that we took the kids for a tournament. I didn't even know I didn't have any money. We have to trek all the way from Avestas, all the way from Chevron, Bagada to Avestas before we entered Danfo with children. You know, so many things where I wanted to do something and I had high expectations. I don't know if anybody remembers this GT Bank Social Impact Challenge in 2018, right? It was because of that social impact challenge that I did not travel out of the country because I had hopes that they were going to pick my idea. That was when we started Chess and Slums. They told us to make a 1 minute video pitch, GT Bank, that so if they select your project, they were going to fund you with 1 million naira. And they picked 40 people, 40 ideas. And me, my idea was that chess, this chess. We had just started Chess and Slums then. And I pitched for it. And they didn't select us. And I think the pitching process, the selection process took about up to like almost 2 months. They were picking two winners every weekend or something. And that was the time that I was contemplating traveling or not traveling. So I just thought in my head, I was like, God, we're going to win this thing. And when we win it, we'd have 1 million naira to fund this chess systems project. We buy chess boards, we rent this thing, and this thing would have, because I didn't have a lot of money then. It was a big break I thought we were going to get. So we're going to have money to fund the project. But then when they picked the last winner and it wasn't Chess in Slums, I was broken, right? But the next day, I just moved on and I said, see, whether we get this or not, we're going to do this and we're going to go all the way. Because I already knew that my understanding of failure was that we're going to reach that finish line. And everything was only going to make sense when we got to that finish line. And it becomes a beautiful story to tell, right? So Like I said, I can start nitpicking those stories here and there. Okay, let me even give one final one. A recent failure that I had, right? I wanted us to do a video, like a reenactment of the Queen's Academy in Makoko. The girls, they're very talented. They can act. So we did like a parody of Queen's Gambit series on Netflix of the trailer, right? And we spent a lot, right? The costumes, the camera, the shoots. We had to go to some places to shoot, the beats and beats and beats. And we spent like 2 days filming and we put it together. So in hopes that when we upload it with the Queen's Gambit this thing, that it will go viral and to give us, it would make people see how talented these children are and to give them opportunities. But then after all of that, we posted it and nothing just happened. It was, oh, nice, nice. And that's it. And this was like something recent, like maybe 2 weeks ago or thereabout. And that's just it. And it didn't go viral. And nobody really noticed that these children were exceptionally talented, even at acting. Well, and we're like, the team was like, like, yes, let's just move on to the next thing. And that's what is always going to be for me, right? That failure is a part of the process. I spend time thinking about it because kind of strength is through our failures.
So much, Tunde, for sharing. I keep saying it is the vulnerability for me. Like I really love that. Thank you so, so much. This one says, in retrospect, what could you have done better in your early days as a social entrepreneur?
Mm, what could I have done better? I don't know. I don't think I would really change anything. Maybe in my early days, I would have started building administrative competence. I would have put structure, yes. Structure is important. Now, like I said, I'm being very vulnerable here and I'm just sharing. Chess and Storms, for the most part, became a one-man show. It was about Tunde Onakoya as the founder, right? It wasn't really about the project anymore at some point because the spotlight was always on me, not the team, not the project, right? So then they say, so whatever this. So I think that's a mistake I made from the beginning, right? While growing, I have an amazing team of people, and I always let people know that. See, the success story of Trust and Storms is not because of me. I was just playing my part in this by being able to like communicate the things that we do. But it's a collective effort of people. Like people poured their heart and soul into this. People sacrificed their life, their career to build this. I'm not joking. There are people that left their jobs that came to start living with me so we could just build this crazy idea that we thought could shape the future. And it's the sacrifices of these people that has brought us this far. But most people didn't see that, and everything always came back to me because I didn't build that structure of leadership that I didn't even need to be there, that everyone else could speak properly for this, right? And I think that's something I would change. I would definitely do things differently. In fact, if I could be anonymous, I would change it. Like all those times that I had those interviews at the beginning, I'd have let someone else on the team do it, right? Because it's also important because when you're building, right, you can't do it alone, obviously. That are very passionate. Remember, when you're picking people that are building with you, don't pick competence over passion,
Hmm,
right? You may know someone that has the skills to do the things you want done and you want it done well, but that person might be very competent, but not as passionate. Always pick the passionate person. I
hmm.
promise you, because one thing is that they have the ability to grow. And because that passion drives them, they will go incredible lengths, right, to build that vision with you. And I had that privilege, right? And I wish that I had let them also grow and be empowered through the journey, right? It took me like till last year before I now realized it. I remember the Guardian UK wanted to interview me, and I said, I won't be doing the interview. Just let someone else on the team do it. And I just forgot about it. So apparently, someone else on the team, in fact, the entire team spoke during the interview and all of that. So the interview came out like after a few months, and I read the article, and I was like, wow, I was so proud to hear their own thoughts about the project, the insights that they shared about the work that they do in their different departments. And ever since then, I was like, see, oh yeah, more people should do that. And that was just it. I think I would have started that much earlier from the beginning, right? To make sure that everyone, grew with the project. It wasn't just me that was there, unraveling my dark side. We need everyone to also be on that this thing, on that frequency, right? So that's one thing I would definitely have done differently.
Thank you
So yeah.
so much, Tunde. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Um, so Tunde, who do you know whom we should all know as well?
Okay, this is a very good question. Efo or Jomo. Okay, I mentioned it already. Yeah, please, you need to know him. Um, who else now? I have quite a number of people. Um, for Nigerians, Otto Orandam. I know a lot of people know Otto Orandam, but I mean, I remember reading about Otto Orandam. That was the thing that was the moment I knew that, okay, somebody had done this, that I could do it too, right? You need to find people like that have done the things that you want to do, right? And just watch them. I remember I even sent him a message. He didn't reply, obviously, because he probably had a lot of messages from people. But he replied 4 years later. I think this was he replied late last year or somewhere in January. I'm like, hi Tunde, just seeing your message now. I'm so proud of you. And like, yes, I reached out to you 4 years ago because I saw what you did and it really inspired me. So Otto Orandam definitely. There's this other guy, um, Pencils of Promise. Adam, can't exactly recall now, but the founder of Pencils of Promise is someone that you need to know. Another guy, Gary V, although he's not in the non-development space, Gary V, check him out definitely. Um, Johnson Abali, you need to know Johnson Abali. I don't know if he has a lot of content on the internet, but just Google him, just find a way to get in touch with him somehow to be his friend. That's my mentor and somebody that you need to know in your lifetime, Johnson Abali, right? He lives in Ikorodu, funny enough, right? And knowing him changed my life because he taught me several things that I'll never forget, right? And who else? Yeah, I think um, those ones are enough. If you know those ones, yeah, you're good to go.
All right, thank you very much, Tunde. So, Tunde, what have you read that we should read also?
Okay, hold on. Um, I used to be an avid reader, but lately, I haven't really been reading a lot. I mean, the last maybe 2 years, I've only read maybe 4 books. But there's this book I started reading, The Prosperity Paradox. I can buy this for two people as a gift. So just remind me of this, Raphael. But you need to read this book. It's
All right, I'll,
important.
I'll do that. Yeah.
So it really is like the kind of books you want to read depends on what phase you are at. Like if you're at the phase where you're trying to like build discipline for yourself, self-leadership, I think you should read Atomic Habits, right? Because you need a lot of discipline, right? On that path to unraveling your dark side, right? Already a lot of distraction in the world. Social media distracts me anyway. So it's a struggle that I all deal with, right? I try my best to not spend as much time on my phone because I went to look for an activity part, right? And the Prosperity Paradox is an important book. You can read Atomic Habits, um, Prosperity Paradox, Atomic Habits. Um, there needs to be more context, right? But I'm sure if you read this book, it will change your life, especially if you're in the development space, because you need to really think differently about the problems you want to solve. Don't think about it the same way every other person has thought about it, even if they made millions of dollars out of it or they got grants or a lot of those things. Please choose to do things differently and have faith in the ideas that you have, in that solution that you have. And the world will come around. And when your own opportunities come, oh God, people would marvel. But then to be because you chose the road less traveled. So yeah, so those books, yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
very much. So we have just two more questions left. And this one says, Tunde, what have you done that we should do? Deep people here. So
I'm not sure the things I've done that you've not done, but I promise you, I've not done anything that is extraordinary. I promise you. The only thing that just makes it different is that chess is the tool I use, honestly. And because it is chess, I decided to know everything I needed to know about it. Right? I decided to do everything I needed to know about it. So what have I done that I think you need to do? Um, um, I think you need to learn how to listen. I think that's my greatest gift. That's my superpower, right? To put yourself out there. That's it. Like you need to put yourself out there every day, right? And I think that's the one thing I did, right? That because whatever you're building in the dark, right? Whatever the main work will be done in the dark. It's just like for every champion, there's preparation that is done in a place that nobody knows about. And when they come on to that ring, to that place, to that spotlight, the world now marvels, right? You need to put yourself out there. Don't spend a lot of time in the dark, right? My girlfriend was telling me something yesterday. She said there's a video on YouTube that has millions of views. The video is how to boil an egg. You would think that people don't need to learn how to boil an egg because it's a very simple thing, but it has millions of views on YouTube. So it means that whatever you have is not useless. It's useful to someone in the world, to people in the world, right? So you have to first recognize the value that it has, and you put it out into the world. Whatever you have, give every view, share it with the world through social media, through talking to people. You have to share it. If people don't see it, right, then it doesn't make any sense. It has no value, right? And I like to think about it like this, right? Any idea I have, any thought I have, the things I want to do, and I share it with the world, right? I like to see how people interact with it, right? Whatever it is, whether you're building a product, a tech product, you're doing a social work, because as you're doing your social work, you have to continue innovating. You have to keep evolving with the times. Oh, I remember after COVID happened, oh, what did we need to do differently now? All right, let us try and get iPads so the children can start playing chess online virtually. And what happened is that thinking outside like our normal training in person, it gave us access to a global community. That was when we had a match with the University of California. That was when some of the children we discovered that they had never even used a computer before, seen one before. So the more you continue to like do those things, right? Put yourself out there, share it every day. Don't stop sharing. Don't let anybody tell you that you're doing too much, right? Because every time you put yourself out there, every time you talk about the things you do, every time you do anything to build competence with the things you do, and you do it consciously, right? You're telling the world who you are, right? And think about everyone who became successful. They're successful because they're sharing who they are with the world. Anything you say, Wizkid sings, he's sharing himself with the world, what he can do, who he is as a musician, anybody, right? So don't be that person that you are shy, you are scared, or you think you're not articulate enough, you think this. No, just put yourself out there, just take the leap, just jump into it. Right? You're going to figure it out, right? So like I said, I didn't do anything extraordinary, right? I just started sharing the things that I do because I had an idea that I thought could shape the future. And I wanted people to also see it that this is my idea and I'm going to share it with the world, right? And the world saw it and it inspired the world enough to start calling themselves area boy. That was once a derogatory term, but because I owned it, right, and I said I'm an area boy and I'm going to share it with the world, and when the world saw it, and because I gave them reason to believe it, they didn't just believe it, they also took it and ran with it. Right? It's not about being an era boy, the derogatory term, or about the brand or it being fancy. It really shows, deeply how we are all victims of a dysfunctional society. And because, we are in our own bubble, that privilege, right? We now we don't think about those people and the circumstances that have put them in this situation. And because we saw it, they believed it, and they gave them opportunities. And that changed the entire story. It birthed a new story, right? And it just started with sharing what I had with the world, right? So always share what you have with the world. every day. Don't hold back, and you'll be amazed at what the things that would happen.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. All right, the final question. Mr. Tunde, how can we add value to you?
Oh, okay. Hmm. No one has ever asked me that before, but I don't have an answer, so I have to start thinking about it. Can you add value to me?
Good one. Yeah.
No one has ever asked what they can do for me before. Everyone just wants me to do one thing or the other for them.
Wow.
Um, I think right now, how you can add value to me is um, if you're a Christian, pray for me, right? Because I I need wisdom, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes on a daily basis. I've done things that man, I'm not proud of, right? I've made a lot of mistakes on this journey, right? A lot of mistakes, in fact, and lots of mistakes, right? And I'm not a perfect person. And every day, I know I remind myself that I have to do better, right? So if you can, if you're a Christian, pray for me, wisdom. I always pray for wisdom to be able to discern, right? Because now, um, I'm famous, right? I don't like to think about it as fame because I traveled recently to Mauritius and people recognize me in Mauritius. Mauritius is on the other side of Africa, down there after Madagascar. And four people saw me and they're like, "You're Tunde, the chess guy." And every time I go out now, I get this every day. Oh, selfie, selfie, and I'm always happy to do these things. Yeah. So what it means is that I'm famous now, but I don't like to think about it as fame, but I like to think about it as influence. I have influence that is meaningful, but I need more influence. I don't want to be famous again because I'm honestly just even tired of being famous. I don't want to be famous because being famous doesn't really serve me in any way, right? People are famous. Another person can be famous on Instagram for twerking or anything. I don't want to be famous. I want to build influence in a way that is meaningful because ultimately, what I'm building influence for is not for myself. I have no personal ambitions anymore. I only have a national diploma from Yaba Tech. I have no intention to go to school. Someone said I should apply for one Harvard scholarship thing that I'll get it and all of that. I've seen our work being used, all over the world in some of the top universities, and people talk about the Oshodi project, the chess project, how chess, and all of those things. I see a lot of these things, and people are like, "Man, you can do this. You can leave the country. You can," and I'm like, I don't have any personal ambitions. That's the thing. It's not like I don't know these things. I don't have any personal ambitions. I don't want to do any of those things. Because for me, right, my own journey is to build capacity for what my purpose demands, right? And I'm going to discover that by myself, right? I'm going to walk that path, right, to discover those things. My dark side, keep unraveling it. I'm going to do that alone. It's a personal journey, right? But what I want to be influential for, right, is so that I can speak for millions of children across Africa who do not have the spotlight in them. That whenever I talk about Fawaz, the boy conductor that I used to work as a conductor and I became a champion, I'd want to celebrate that child. Whenever I talk about Ayomide, that whenever I talk about Basirat, if I talk about Ferdinand, right, that the world pays attention to them and listens to their hopes and their dreams.
Amazing.
So pray for me for grace and pray for influence because when I have influence, I'll be able to change certain things,
Yeah.
right? That would benefit people and change lives. Right. So I guess that's one way. And I mean, volunteering ideas, I'm always open to listening. Recently, I became an ambassador for a company to come up with charity initiatives every month for children. So, whatever ideas you have, you can share it with me, how we can partner together to work on it, right? I mean, ultimately, the goal here is to create prosperity. Chess is just one tool, it could be anything else. So, in any capacity, if you have, always, feel free to share with me and see how we can really work things out together. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. Man, how much can we afford? Can we even afford to pay for your time? Like, this has been amazing. In fact, I can't believe everybody still stayed. Everybody kept joining back. Even on the WhatsApp platform, people are like, my network this, my network that, coming in and out and all. Thank you so much. I know it's been a long day for you, the wedding and everything, but you still took out time, to inspire us all. And it's been a great time of learning from you. We're so proud of you. Personally, I'm so proud of you as well, because I know the guy I met, at the development dialogue and seeing where you are
Yes.
now, it's amazing. It's a consistency for me as well. You get like I'm so proud of you, and we love you, and we want to see you do more. Exploits globally, and we'll be praying for you as you've asked us. So everyone, can we thank Mr. Tunde once again in the comments session? And you know what amazing thing that just happened? The book you just showed us, someone had a soft
Yeah.
copy in the community and has shared the
Oh
book,
wow.
yeah, on
Oh, awesome.
the page. So everyone has access to the book already. Yeah. So thank you for recommending that. And thank you so much for your time once again. And we'll be getting across to you very soon because we had some packages for you from the summit, which we've kept. And we said we'll pay you a visit in Lagos one of these days and present it personally to you. So you should be expecting us maybe before the end of the month. Yeah. So thank you so
Oh,
much
wow.
once again, Mr. Tunde. We really appreciate you. And this is the end of our first post summit session tonight. We trust you all. We've all got value. So watch out for the next one with Aproko Doctor. We'll be having him next weekend. Join us and share more deep insights on how to use social media positively, how to build your influence as well. And please, everything Tunde has shared tonight, make sure you apply them because it's not enough to join and do wow, 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 like Siren. No, no, no. We want to see results. Do you understand? Next time Satunde sees you, he doesn't want to hear thank you. No, he wants to hear the impact, that it's time that he has invested in us tonight has done in your life because that's what he gets out of this, the fulfillment, knowing that tonight, him speaking here tonight, one person's life is going to change. One person would start something. One person, would start making a difference in the society as well. One person would touch one life somewhere else. That's all we get out of this as social innovators, as social entrepreneurs, is the fulfillment. No amount of money compares to that. So thank you all so much for joining tonight. See you all on the WhatsApp platform. I have to let Mr. Tunde go now. Thank you so much, sir. We are super grateful.
All right.
I'm speaking Yoruba. Eshe.
Thank you, thank you. And on a final note,
Yeah,
well done, Raphael.
thank you.
Well done, well done, well
Yeah.
done. I remember when I heard you speak at the development dialogue, right? I came to meet you. I think we even left
We left
together.
together, yeah, the
Uh,
boat. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
really inspired by you on that day, and I
Yeah.
know you know because I told you.
Yeah, you
And
told me.
well done with everything that you do. And I mean, the world needs more people like you, right? The world needs more people like you. It's important. I know you understand this very deeply, right? So well done, well done. I apologize once again for missing the summit. I would have really loved someone messaged me that they traveled all the way with hopes,
From
hopes that
outside the
they
states, a lot of people.
call. I'm sure there will definitely be a next time, right?
Sure,
And thank
sure,
you.
sure.
And someone in the comments asked how can they be mentored? The thing is that right now, to be fair, I can't mentor, right? Because I've never really mentored anyone,
Mm,
right? I think the best way is to like just follow me on Twitter. I like to share a lot of my thoughts on Twitter, right? Because it's easy for me to just talk about the things I
mm.
take and let it guide you on your own journey. That's just what it is, right? I share very regularly on Twitter. I mean, subsequently, I'll start sharing more on LinkedIn and other platforms, but you can just follow me on social media, shoot me a message sometime, right? And yeah, just
Daniel, I still doing a webinar now.
it would all count for something great. Yeah. So thank you.
You so much Tunde. So everyone, that'll be all for tonight. Feel free to exit the room and let's let Mr. Tunde go and get some rest. So thank you so much, Tunde. I'll be in touch very soon. God bless you. God bless
All
you.
right.
Also
All
be
right. Bye, guys. All right.
Yeah.